And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. Our show today comes to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsimshian people. The inspiration for Orange Shirt Day came from residential school survivor Phyllis Jack Webstad. Webstad recounted her first day of residential schooling at 6 years old when she was stripped of her clothes, including the new orange shirt her grandmother bought her, which was never returned. The orange shirt now symbolizes how the residential school system took away the indigenous identities of its students. We begin today's Open Connection with Tears to Hope event coordinator Denise Halfyard.
As family members ourselves, we're a small grassroots organization, and that's how we got started. I lost my cousin 18 years ago, and we still don't have any answers. And my way of healing is to help other families like ours, and to give those women voices, and to let the families know that we hear them and we see them, and we're here to support you and help raise their voices. It's been amazing. We actually started on Thursday night with a free self-defense class and it was open to anybody, but it ended up being mostly young women who came with their parents, and I guess the parents just wanted to give them some tools to help protect themselves for future. Hopefully they don't need to. Then yesterday we opened it up to the youth of the local youth of this school district, and we had about 70 grade 10 to 12 students from all over Terrace, from the Niska Valley and from Whitsett that came for the day. And it was an amazing day of watching these students blossom and learn to use their voice and to share their traumas, share their stories, but then also starting to heal, realizing that they've had the courage to speak up in front of a lot of strangers too, and just tell their stories. And yeah, it was just a beautiful day of watching them learn to use their voice and actually use them. Kairos came up with this blanket exercise where it visually shows you how Indigenous people have been treated since contact, and slowly they take you through our history, from first contact to the reservation system, the Indian Act, to residential schools, and then how that affects our people today, and which is kind of how MMIWG came about. It's a result of really the Indian Act. So it's a great tool for Indigenous people and non-Indigenous especially, to really see and experience it, because it's such an experiential exercise. Every year we do the Tears to Hope relay and virtual run. We start in the Nass Valley, in Prince Rupert, in Kitimat Village, and Smithers, and we come together on the third day. And it's a big celebration. Every 10-kilometer marker on the highway is the face of a missing or murdered loved one. And I say loved one because it's a male or female. In one case, it's an entire family, and we just don't want to leave anybody out along the Highway of Tears. That's our main focus, is to bring awareness to all of them, because it doesn't matter the color of your skin. We all suffer from having a missing or murdered loved one. But it becomes a celebration at the end, where we want people to celebrate their accomplishments as well. We don't want it to be so solemn, and just enjoy being together as a community. We do plan to do this again, a more youth-focused conference, so and this time males and females, because we did this year have a lot of males interested in joining, and so we want to be able to partner up with other organizations to be able to really teach the youth, because that's part of the prevention, is teaching them to use their voice and to protect themselves. And so we have that. We have the Red Dress Day, which we always have some kind of a march and community outreach. And then May 5th is Red Dress Day. And again, that's another day of importance where we recognize our loved ones. Every day is a day to remember. Every day. It's September 30th is, yes, it's a national holiday. It is a stat holiday, but to us, it's not. It's every day for us. And I just want people to recognize, especially our allies, who are so great at coming out and supporting our events. Just remind people that it isn't just one day, and that it's every day, and that they can listen and learn all the time.
Fantastic.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, originally and so colloquially known as Orange Shirt Day, is a Canadian holiday to recognize the legacy of the Canadian Indian residential school system. Let us rejoin the conversation with elected Regional Chief of British Columbia Assembly of First Nations, Terry Tehe.
Well, it was a historic day. When we talk about truth and reconciliation, the truth was that they stole artifacts. They stole our totem poles, they stole our lands, they stole our children, our languages. And if we're talking about truth and reconciliation, we need to speak to that truth. And if we're going to reconcile anything, there needs to be some level of substance to what reconciliation means. So really taking back our artifacts, reinvigorating our languages, our culture, and taking back our land. Really, I suppose, the impediments from provincial or federal governments, municipal governments, if you will, to repatriate or rematriate some of our artifacts, but also, too, it's discussions about really recognizing who we are as Indigenous peoples, recognizing that we've had our own governments long before colonization began, that the doctrine of discovery, the doctrines of terra nullius, does not exist anymore, and so therefore we have to take our rightful place as not only governments, but also as I think the real recognition of our human rights. I'm not done with the BCFN. I don't think the BCFN's done with me, and it's an honor and a privilege to represent I would say the best place on earth, British Columbia, and because we're so diverse here. We represent 60% of Indigenous languages in Canada come from British Columbia. The many recognized governments, Indigenous governments, really I think it's, to me it's, you do carry on that momentum for the good work that we're doing, and the struggle too. It's never easy to make change, and I'm willing to carry on the work that we're doing on behalf of all First Nations here in British Columbia. This initiative, Chairs of Hope, really is speaking to how we can move forward together in recognizing that trauma, recognizing that colonization has a terrible history in Canada and British Columbia. So. And it's affected everything in our nations. It's affected who we are, our languages, the taking of our children, which is what this today is about, recognizing those that were taken, the 150,000 plus children that were stolen and brought to institutions, so-called schools, and further to that, the recognizing the 60s scoop, the current number of children in child welfare. Recognizing that we need to go a lot further to reverse the effects of colonization and moreover reversing the effects of essentially genocide. So it's initiatives like this continues on that momentum, and I think we're all in it. I think every British Columbian, every Canadian is on this journey of reconciliation, and we have to recognize that. We need allies in this, and you know, in order to move ahead in a good way, and in order to heal, we have to recognize where we've been, but also recognize what we can do now to make a better future for all First Nations, for all British Columbians, for all Canadians, and I think having allies, you know, that are all wearing orange shirts today continues to recognize of the terrible history that Canada has in terms of imposing genocidal policies. So I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing to recognize that perhaps this, like Grand Chief Stuart Phillips said, this is kind of like Remembrance Day for all those that came out of these institutions traumatized, and for those that never made it home. As we all know that hundreds, if not thousands, did not make it home from these institutions. And what school nowadays or in past history has graveyards attached to it? So it's really a recognition of that terrible history. But I think for initiatives like this, it's of hope, that there is hope to move in a better way into the future.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. On February 22nd, 2023, Melanie Mark announced her resignation as MLA and Cabinet Minister. In her resignation speech, Mark criticized how institutions fundamentally resist change, particularly colonial institutions and government at large, and said that she would continue to advocate and fight from outside this House. Let us return the conversation with Melanie Mark.
Well, the words that come to mind are definitely powerful and empowering. I think it's really powerful to hear people's truths and their stories and their discoveries and understanding what they're learning about missing murdered Indigenous women and girls, what they're learning about the truth of what happened to our ancestors at the Indian residential schools, and the empowerment, what their hopes and dreams are for the future. And my, inspiration and what really gives me hope is seeing all the children that are here and the generations of people that are here, the elders that are here as well, and the allies and just people that I've taken the time to come here and listen, learn, and fight for justice. When I was a politician, I would often say we have to paddle together. And that was because people came to me often with big challenges or big dreams or big problems. And I said, well, look, we're not going to be able to address those things alone. We have to paddle together. And that collaboration and that allyship is really essential, I think, to move forward. And it doesn't matter what it is. The 94 calls to action is about child welfare, education, health, justice, the business. And there was a real variety of people here over the last couple of days that just demonstrates it doesn't take high numbers of people to gather. It's the quality of people that are coming together to move that reconciliation forward. It has always been near and dear to my heart to fight for young people and to empower young people. And as an intergenerational school survivor for my grandparents, to be here was really important. But it was great to hear the story so far and see on the news the rematriation of our stolen pole that is back on our traditional territory. I think it's awesome. I think there were like 1,000 people that witnessed this ceremony, which is the way we did business. And we need to continue doing that important work and the business that is going to, bring our communities back to where we were, thriving, proud, and that's what I heard was happening on our traditional territory yesterday. And thanks for calling me out. I couldn't be there, but I had to be here. The Creator always says you are where you need to be. Well, I hope that I'm known as someone who pushed really hard. I think that that's what I mean by paddle together. Like, we got to work hard to make that change. I got into politics to make change. I will always thank John Horgan, our former premier, for giving me that file of advanced education skills and training. Murray Sinclair, Chief Justice, said of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, education got us into this mess, and education's going to get us out. And it's at places like Coast Mountain College and other colleges and universities in this province that we're educating teachers and doctors and nurses and mental health workers and Red SEALs and all those people, all of us Indigenous people that have a rightful place to be in those classrooms to empower our nations. So it was an honor to be a minister there, and I think that education is definitely a tool that is going to help our path forward for the seventh generation, because I think I'm the sixth generation. The seventh generation is going to be, I believe, the most powerful to get us in the direction that we need to be going in. Orange is scientifically the happiest color, if people don't know that at home. And it makes me think of Phyllis Webstat, who is a dear friend of mine and an ally and someone that I just hope people are really lifting her up. So when I see the orange shirt, it lifts my spirits. I see that you're wearing a Canucks jersey. I have the same jersey, and I think of those allies. I think of the Canucks who are allies. I think of BC Lions who had their orange shirt day. I think the Blue Jays are being allies today. And so when I see Indigenous and non-Indigenous people wearing these shirts, I just feel a sense of allyship. Again, I see people are paddling together, and I think the movement's going to keep growing. You know, it's never too late to wear an orange shirt, and it's not just for today, it's every day that I think that we have to be allies. So I don't just wear orange today on September 30th, I wear orange all throughout the year, and I encourage people to do so.
What would it take for you to run as MLA again?
You're so funny. Well, I know it's hard for people to accept my decision. I made the decision to leave politics for my family, and my youngest daughter, Mac, who's 12 years old, really needs me cheering her on right now as her mom, and I'm gonna do that. And you know, she's gonna reach an age where she won't need mom as much anymore, and you never know, I might get my paddle back in the water and run for politics. Politics isn't over for me. I left at this particular time for Mac, but yeah, you never know. You never say never, that's for sure. I love being an MLA. I love being an advocate for our people, and I think it's important. We have to acknowledge that politicians play a really important role. Frank Calder, who's Niska, was the first Indian, the first Indigenous person to ever become an MLA in all of Canada, and that was too long ago, and we need to do more. We need to increase those numbers, and yeah, it's funny that you're asking me this. You're getting me down memory lane. It's only been almost 6 months since I left politics, and you're trying to get me back in the canoe. But you never know. Yeah, I would like to thank Denise and her mom Lorna for hosting this event. I think it's always the grit and determination of people that have a vision to invite people. I think there's a power in invitation for people to come here and gather, and it's because of them that we're here today. And thank you. I think there's a responsibility in the media through the TRC that we have to showcase and highlight positive stories of Indigenous people and our resilience and our hopes and dreams. So thank you for covering the story.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Orange Shirt Day was first established as an observance in 2013 as part of an effort to promote awareness and education of the residential school system and the impact it had on Indigenous communities for over a century. The impact of the residential school system has been recognized as cultural genocide. In this final segment of Open Connection, we return to the conversation with Jamie Davis.
It's everything all in one. It's healing, and it's very intense at the same time. As we listen to the workshops going on, you just start to think about your own traumas that you may have faced, or think of someone else's traumas who've shared with you, and it's so sad for all of us. I have hope for this country because we have people like you and I and the people hosting this event today, and we've got a lot of great leaders here, so definitely going in the right direction. I feel like I'm definitely beating the odds here in this country and through colonialism, and It's been amazing. Something I like to talk about when I do workshops myself is I talk about living your truth, and with that comes all of the great things behind it, like success and everything else. And for me, my truth is being an artist. That's who I am as a person. That's part of my identity, and I've reclaimed that part. That's the huge part of my identity, and that's what I stand for, and that's what I like to talk about and help pass on to the youth and whoever else wants to listen and learn and grow and heal and just keep moving forward. This day comes around once a year, and a lot of people pack up their orange shirts until the next year, and that's the truth. That really is the truth, and it's hard to hear, but at the same time, there are the people who continue to wear their orange shirts every day, and just to see this movement growing stronger every year, it's definitely fills the heart and continues to give us more hope for the future. Growing up, I was forced to learn French, the colonial language, and I wasn't taught my own language, and it just wasn't even a thought in the back of my head, any part of my identity, and language was a huge part of it. And language and culture is one of the calls to action. I think it's the fourth one on there, and to have my mother lead this language and culture camp is like the most important work, and I'm so very proud of her for starting that initiative and having me and my sisters follow along with that. Just so proud to be part of that, and honored and privileged.
It's definitely healing. I'm not sure if this would fit into reconciliation. Here's the Hope was founded by Indigenous people for Indigenous people, and I've actually worked with them quite a bit in the past, and it's always healing. It's always, we got some powerful people here speaking. I think they're doing the blanket exercise in there. I think the orange is again, the orange shirt is a great start, and it's great to see so many people embrace it. I worry about the commercialism of it sometimes. Starting to see it in like big brand stores is a bit strange, but there's a lot of Indigenous creators out there that like I'm wearing Clock Magiclay, and I know that they've put a lot of heart and soul into this print, and so it means something to see it, and it's great to see the support. I think when we wear orange shirts, putting the time and energy into understanding why understanding why you're wearing the orange shirt, what it symbolizes, not just doing it because everybody's doing it, but understanding the story behind it and understanding what it means.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection from his mind and heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.